Real Madrid's team bus has just left the Allianz Arena without Vinícius Júnior, and this shocking departure could be the ultimate symbol of his collapsing future at the club. Following their devastating Champions League elimination against Bayern Munich, the Brazilian superstar was left completely stranded at the stadium while his teammates headed for the airport, sparking massive speculation that his time in the Spanish capital might finally be coming to an end. The official explanation for this unprecedented situation is that Vinícius was stuck in doping control after the final whistle, forcing the club to make the ruthless decision to leave him behind. However, the optics of the team bus driving away without their former talisman perfectly encapsulates the growing isolation he is currently experiencing within the squad. It was undoubtedly a lonely and humiliating experience for a player who had just endured one of the most difficult and frustrating evenings of his entire professional career. This symbolic abandonment comes at a time when Vinícius is facing unprecedented criticism from all corners of the footballing world, including from some of the most respected figures in Real Madrid's history. The fallout from the 4-3 defeat on the night, which resulted in a 6-4 aggregate elimination, has been absolutely brutal. While much of the initial focus centered on Eduardo Camavinga's foolish red card and the uncertain future of head coach Álvaro Arbeloa, the spotlight has now firmly shifted onto the Brazilian winger's inability to decisively influence the biggest matches. Subscribe now and help us reach 1,000 subscribers by April 30th. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates on this title race. Legendary Real Madrid goalkeeper Iker Casillas has been leading the charge against Vinícius, delivering a scathing assessment of his performance and attitude during the Bayern Munich collapse. Casillas did not hold back in his criticism, pointing directly to the Brazilian's on-field antics as the primary reason for the team's failure. The iconic shot-stopper was particularly furious about an incident where Vinícius was caught on camera aggressively telling Jude Bellingham to shut up after the English midfielder had simply asked for the ball. Casillas perfectly summarized the toxic environment currently plaguing the squad, stating, "This is exactly why they lost yesterday. There's no leadership and everyone wants to be the main man. Bellingham asked for the ball and you're telling him to shut up. I can't imagine Toni Kroos asking Cristiano Ronaldo to pass more and Ronaldo telling him to shut up." This brutal comparison to the professionalism of past legends highlights exactly how far standards have fallen under the current generation of stars. The criticism from Casillas didn't stop there. He went on to claim that Vinícius's terrible attitude is the main reason he missed out on the 2024 Ballon d'Or, suggesting that his massive ego is actively disrupting the harmony of the team. According to the legendary goalkeeper, only 2 players actually showed any desire to win the match against Bayern Munich. As Casillas bluntly put it, Arda Güler and Bellingham were the only players who really wanted to win yesterday. Vinícius had a bad game. I don't know why he can't control his anger. This devastating assessment from a club legend perfectly aligns with the growing frustration among the Real Madrid hierarchy regarding Vinícius's ongoing contract demands. For more than a year, the 25-year-old has been locked in a bitter contractual dispute with the club, constantly seeking higher wages despite a noticeable drop in his overall impact. With little more than 12 months remaining on his current deal, which expires in 2027, the situation has reached an absolute breaking point. The core issue driving this contractual standoff is Vinícius's demand for absolute financial parity with Kylian Mbappé. The Brazilian believes he deserves to be paid exactly the same as the French superstar, but his recent performances simply do not justify such an astronomical financial commitment. While a return of 17 goals and 14 assists this season is certainly respectable, it falls significantly short of the elite numbers required to demand a reported €30 million per year. The contrast between Vinícius and Mbappé has become increasingly apparent as the season has progressed. While the Brazilian's form has slowly eroded, his French teammate has continued to deliver on the biggest stages. Mbappé has already scored 15 Champions League goals this year alone, representing the joint 3rd highest contribution in the history of the tournament. Vinícius, who used to be Real Madrid's undisputed Champions League talisman, has now been completely eclipsed and forced into the shadow of the club's newest Galactico. Former Real Madrid goalkeeper Santiago Canizares echoed these exact sentiments following the elimination in Munich. He publicly complained about the Brazilian's recent output, stating, "Vini Jr hasn't been giving Real Madrid the performance his contract and status as a player stipulate for 2 years. This growing consensus among former players suggests that the club's patience is finally beginning to run out, and the possibility of a blockbuster summer transfer is becoming increasingly realistic. The match against Bayern Munich presented Vinícius with the perfect opportunity to silence his critics and strengthen his negotiating position. Instead, he delivered an incredibly off-key performance that only served to highlight his current struggles. He passed up two glorious chances to push Real Madrid towards the quarter-finals, slashing wildly wide when charging clear down the left channel before completely miskicking a cutback from Mbappé when positioned just 6 yards out from goal. To make matters even worse, his overall impact on the game was severely limited, and his frustration eventually boiled over into the ugly confrontation with Bellingham. Movistar cameras clearly caught him hitting out at his English teammate, with reports confirming he shouted, "What do you want? Shut your mouth." He was also involved in a heated exchange with Joshua Kimmich off the ball, an incident that could easily have resulted in a red card had the referee been slightly less lenient. Despite this mounting evidence suggesting that a transfer might be the best solution for all parties involved, selling a player of Vinícius's profile is incredibly complicated. As Canizares pointed out, it is very easy to demand a sale from the comfort of a sofa, but the reality of the transfer market presents significant challenges. The former Spain keeper admitted, "But that being said, I agree he should leave. With a good offer, I'd sell him." The biggest obstacle to any potential transfer is finding a club capable of affording the Brazilian superstar. Former Real Madrid striker Michael Owen recently analysed the situation, concluding that Vinícius is simply so big and so good that an exit is almost impossible. Owen pointed out that any potential transfer fee would easily reach into the realms of a couple of €100 million, a figure that completely prices out the vast majority of European clubs. When asked about potential destinations, Owen was incredibly skeptical about the possibility of a move materialising. He stated, "The problem is if you've got a great player, a great club, who is there to buy him? If you've got a decent player, an okay club, then there's so many different suitors." But how much would Vini Jr cost? We're getting in the realms of a couple of $100 million nowadays. And who can afford that? Probably 2 teams at the moment. The Saudi Pro League has frequently been mentioned as a potential destination, with reports suggesting Vinícius previously received offers from the Middle East worth an astonishing €1 billion. However, Owen doubts whether that level of investment is still available, noting that the Saudi spending spree appears to have softened down significantly in recent times. Furthermore, a player of Vinícius's caliber and ambition is highly unlikely to abandon European football during the absolute peak years of his career. This complex situation leaves Real Madrid in an incredibly difficult position. However, top transfer insider Fabrizio Romano has recently provided a crucial update that completely changes the narrative surrounding the Brazilian's future. According to Romano, club president Florentino Perez personally wants Vinícius to renew his contract and remain at the Santiago Bernabéu. The desire from the top of the hierarchy to keep the winger has not diminished at all, despite the ongoing drama and public criticism. Romano's reporting suggests that the current contract renewal offer remains firmly on the table, and Perez has consistently supported the player throughout his various squabbles behind the scenes. This crucial update completely dispels the rumours suggesting that Vinícius is actively being shopped to clubs like Chelsea or Paris Saint-Germain. From the perspective of the club president, Vinícius is still very much wanted in Madrid, and the current standoff is largely being driven by the player's agents rather than the club itself. The reality is that Vinícius Jr remains one of the most talented and devastating attackers on the planet. He has been a model of consistency for Real Madrid over the past few years, passing the 20-goal mark in 4 successive seasons and playing a pivotal role in 2 Champions League title triumphs. His ability to create absolute havoc in the biggest matches is virtually unmatched in modern football, and replacing that level of production would be an incredibly difficult task for any club. However, the Brazilian must now realise that he cannot continue to hide behind his agents and allow this toxic situation to escalate any further. The incident with the team bus in Munich, combined with the brutal criticism from club legends like Casillas, should serve as a massive wake-up call. He needs to regain control of his narrative, repair his fractured relationships within the dressing room, and refocus his energy entirely on his performances on the pitch. As the summer transfer window rapidly approaches, the saga surrounding Vinícius Jr is perfectly set up to be one of the most fascinating stories in world football. Real Madrid and their Brazilian superstar are rapidly running out of time to find a workable solution, and the pressure is mounting with every passing day. Whether he ultimately signs a new contract or forces a blockbuster exit, the next few months will completely define the legacy of a player who was once destined to rule the Santiago Bernabeu for a generation.